The massive chamber of Nexus Prime stretched out like a metallic cathedral, where 12 different alien species gathered for their most important meeting of the year. Commander Jake Sullivan adjusted his uncomfortable formal uniform and tried not to stare at the creatures around him. To his left sat Lieutenant Lisa Martinez, who kept her expression neutral despite the whispers and pointing from various alien delegates. The Zeltharians dominated the center table with their crystalline bodies catching light from every angle. Their leader council, Prime Zelthara, stood nearly 9 feet tall, and her voice rang like breaking glass when she spoke. The ancient Vorthak representatives pulsed with soft blue and green lights across their jellyfish-like bodies, while floating in specialized tanks filled with dense atmosphere. 4 armed Kethmore warriors sat rigid in their battle armor, even though this was supposed to be a peaceful diplomatic gathering. Jake had dreamed of this moment for 3 years, since Earth first made contact with galactic civilization. Humanity had fought hard to earn even observer status at these quarterly meetings where emerging species were evaluated for potential membership in the Galactic Council. The application process alone had taken 18 months and required detailed reports about human technology, culture, and social development. Lisa leaned slightly toward Jake and whispered, "Remember what Ambassador Cole told us about staying calm no matter what they say." Jake nodded and focused on the holographic display showing Earth's solar system, along with technical readouts of human achievements. The data looked impressive to him, with details about space stations, lunar colonies, and the successful Mars terraforming project that had begun 2 years earlier. Council Prime Zelthara activated her translation device and began speaking to the assembled delegates. "We gather today to review applications from 17 species seeking recognition as emerging civilizations worthy of galactic status." Her crystalline fingers tapped against the podium, creating musical notes that somehow sounded condescending. "Most applications show promise, but one particular case requires special attention." The holographic display shifted to show Earth in detail with rotating images of human cities, space installations, and technological achievements. Jake felt a surge of pride watching the presentation until he noticed the amused expressions spreading across alien faces throughout the chamber. Several Kethmore delegates began making clicking sounds that their translation devices rendered as laughter. The species calling themselves humans request Level 5 intermediate civilization status based on their recent expansion beyond their home planet. Zelthara continued with what could only be described as amusement. They have provided extensive documentation of their achievements, including primitive rocket technology, basic nuclear fusion, and elementary faster-than-light communication. Elder Mordeth of the Vorthak delegation pulsed bright yellow, which indicated he wished to speak. His voice bubbled through his tank's communication system like underwater speech. "These carbon-based bipeds have barely mastered combustion engines and still rely on chemical propulsion for most of their space travel. They claim to have achieved interplanetary colonization, but their Mars settlement houses fewer than 10,000 individuals." The chamber erupted in what Jake realized was laughter from multiple species. The sound was unlike anything he had ever heard, with crystalline chiming from Zeltharians, mixing with electronic buzzing from the machine-like Nexari, and guttural roars from the predatory Haken delegates. Lisa's face remained expressionless, but Jake could see her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Kethmore Admiral Wrathbringer stood on his hind legs and spread all 4 arms wide. The humans demonstrate concerning levels of violence and chaos in their historical records. They have engaged in over 300 major conflicts in the past millennium, and their planet still contains multiple competing political entities. How can such a fractured and aggressive species contribute to galactic peace and cooperation? Jake started to stand, but Lisa grabbed his arm and pulled him back down. The display now showed embarrassing footage from human history, including wars, environmental destruction, and social conflicts. The alien delegates passed the images around their tablets while making comments that the translation devices mercifully did not render into English. Council Prime Zelth Ara raised one crystalline hand for silence, and the chamber gradually quieted. After careful review, the Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding the human application. Based on their current technological development, social instability, and aggressive tendencies, humanity is classified as a Level 2 pre-industrial species with observer status only. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Level 2 meant humanity ranked below species that had not even achieved spaceflight. Observer status meant they could attend meetings but had no voting, rights, or access to galactic technology-sharing programs. The human delegates may continue attending quarterly sessions to observe proper galactic diplomacy, Zelth Ara announced, while looking directly at Jake and Lisa. Perhaps in several centuries, when humanity has evolved beyond their barbaric tendencies and achieved true technological sophistication, they may reapply for actual membership consideration. Jake felt his face burning with humiliation, but forced himself to remain seated. Around the chamber, alien delegates were already moving on to discuss other applications while completely ignoring the human presence. Lisa kept her expression neutral, but Jake could see the disappointment in her eyes. The session continued for 3 more hours, as various species were granted different levels of galactic status. The insectoid Chitauri received Level 6 Advanced Civilization Recognition, while the energy-based Luminae were welcomed as Level 7 entities with full council voting privileges. Each announcement was met with congratulations and ceremonial gifts, while Jake and Lisa sat forgotten in their corner. When the session finally ended, alien delegates filed out without acknowledging the human representatives. Jake and Lisa walked slowly toward the exit portal that would take them back to their modest quarters on the station's outer ring reserved for observer species. "Well, that went about as badly as it could have," Jake said once they were alone in the corridor. Lisa looked back toward the council chamber and shook her head. "They have no idea what they just did." Captain Ben Rodriguez was reviewing supply reports in his quarters aboard the UES Determination when the emergency transmission crackled through the ship's communication system. The signal was weak and filled with static, but the desperation in the alien voice came through clearly even before the translation protocols engaged. "This is Colony Leader Talaith of Altair 7 calling any vessels in range," the voice pleaded through layers of interference. "Our worlds are under attack by unknown mechanical forces. The Galactic Council fleets are in full retreat. We need immediate assistance or our people will be extinct within 48 hours. Ben sat up straight and activated his command console. The UES Determination had been conducting routine exploration missions in the Outer Rim for 6 months since the humiliating council meeting. Earth Command had assigned them to mapping duties far from galactic civilization after the diplomatic disaster at Nexus Prime. Chief Engineer Amy Watson appeared on his screen looking concerned. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple distress signals from the Altarian colonies. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases, but whatever's attacking them is moving fast and destroying everything in its path." Ben rubbed his beard and considered their options. Earth Command's standing orders were clear about avoiding involvement in galactic conflicts. Humanity was supposed to stay quiet and prove they could be peaceful observers. Getting involved in someone else's war would probably end any chance of future diplomatic recognition. Navigation Officer Chris Parker's voice came through the intercom from the bridge. "Captain, we're receiving tactical data from fleeing Galactic Council ships. It looks like something called the Devourers has wiped out 3 Altarian colonies already and they're heading for the homeworld." Amy appeared at Ben's door before he could respond. She held a data pad showing energy readings and ship configurations that made no sense according to standard galactic technology. "These Devourers aren't like any species we've encountered. They appear to be completely mechanical with the ability to adapt their defenses against any weapon system used against them. Ben walked to the bridge where his crew of 200 humans maintained Earth's most advanced exploration vessel. The main screen showed a tactical display of the Altarian system with red indicators marking Devourer positions and blue dots representing fleeing Council ships. The mechanical invaders were moving in perfect formation toward Altair 7, where 8 billion civilians waited helplessly. Communications Officer Sarah Kim looked up from her station with worry in her eyes. "Captain, I'm monitoring Council fleet. Communications. Admiral Kethmore Wrathbringer is ordering all remaining ships to retreat to minimum safe distance. They're abandoning the Altarians completely." The main screen flickered and Admiral Wrathbringer's four-armed form appeared, looking haggard and defeated. His armor showed battle damage and one of his secondary arms hung uselessly at his side. "Human vessel, you are ordered to withdraw immediately from this combat zone. The Devourers have adapted to counter every weapon in the galactic arsenal. Your primitive technology offers no tactical advantage, and your presence will only result in unnecessary casualties." Ben studied the tactical display showing Council ships fleeing, while Devourer forces advanced relentlessly toward the homeworld. Every military instinct told him this was not his fight, and Earth Command would court-martial him for getting involved. But the distress calls from Altarian civilians kept coming through the communication system. "With respect, Admiral, our ship sensors are detecting civilian evacuation ships that won't clear the system before the Devourers arrive," Ben replied calmly. "We may not have advanced weapons, but we have some experience with impossible situations." "Admiral," Wrathbringer's face showed what Ben assumed was surprise among his species. "Captain Rodriguez, your vessel represents less than 0.001% of our retreating forces. The Devourers have destroyed over 40 Council warships in the past 6 hours. I strongly advise withdrawal before you share their fate, Amy." Watson moved to Ben's side and whispered, "Captain, our weapons systems are 3 generations behind Council technology. Our shields won't last 5 minutes against whatever destroyed their battleships. But our sensor readings show something interesting about Devourer adaptive capabilities." Ben nodded and made his decision. "Admiral Wrathbringer, thank you for the tactical information. The determination will remain in system to assist with civilian evacuation efforts." The Admiral's expression shifted to what might have been respect among his people. "Very well, Captain. Your sacrifice will be noted in the battle records. Kethmore forces are withdrawing to Rally Point Gamma. Good luck." The communication ended, and Ben turned to address his crew. The bridge fell silent as 200 humans realized they were about to face an enemy that had defeated the combined might of galactic civilization. Tony Brooks, the weapons specialist, checked his displays and shook his head at the primitive. "Kinetic systems Earth had installed. Captain, our railguns and missile systems are basically fancy rocks compared to Council energy weapons," Tony reported. "If their advanced technology couldn't stop these Devourers, I'm not sure what we can accomplish." Dr. Rachel Stone emerged from the science station where she had been analyzing Devourer movement patterns. "Captain, I think I understand why the Council fleets failed. The Devourers appear to use quantum entanglement networks for coordination, and their adaptive shielding learns from each attack to become immune to that weapon type." Chris Parker plotted an intercept course that would put them between the Devourer fleet and the fleeing civilian ships. "Captain, will reach engagement range in 40 minutes. Altarian evacuation vessels are still 6 hours from minimum safe distance." Ben looked around at his crew and saw determination mixed with fear on every face. These people had volunteered for exploration missions, not suicide runs against unknown mechanical horrors. But when he thought about 8 billion civilians depending on them, the choice became clear. "Amy, I want you to review every piece of technology we have that the Council might consider primitive," Ben ordered. "Tony, start thinking about kinetic weapon applications they might not have tried. Rachel, figure out how our communication systems differ from standard galactic protocols." Sarah Kim interrupted from her station. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Colony Leader Tal 8th on Altair 7. The Devourers will reach their planet in 18 hours, and civilian evacuation is proceeding slowly due to limited transport capacity." Ben activated ship-wide communications to address the entire crew. People, we're about to do something that Earth Command definitely did not authorize. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you underestimate humans. All departments, prepare for combat operations. Marine Sergeant Kelly Adams appeared on screen from the armory looking ready for anything. Captain, my people are loading every piece of primitive equipment we have. If these mechanical things have never faced good old-fashioned explosives and cutting tools, we might surprise them. The UES Determination changed course toward the approaching Devourer fleet while Galactic Council forces continued their retreat. Ben watched the tactical display and wondered if humanity was about to prove the Council right about human stupidity or show them something completely unexpected. The first Devourer ship appeared on the Determination's sensors like a massive geometric nightmare of interlocking metal plates and energy conduits. Amy Watson studied the readings from her engineering station and noticed something the retreating Council fleets had missed in their panic. Captain, the Devourer adaptive shielding shows a 3-second delay between detecting new weapon types and adjusting defenses, Amy reported while running calculations on her display. Their system is designed to analyze energy signatures and particle beam frequencies, but our kinetic weapons might not register as threats until impact. Ben Rodriguez moved between his bridge crew as they prepared for an engagement that every tactical manual said was impossible to win. The Devourers had destroyed 47 Council warships using technology centuries ahead of Earth's capabilities. But humans had never been good at following other people's rules about what was impossible. Tony Brooks adjusted the targeting systems for the ship's railgun batteries and missile launchers. Captain, I've loaded our heaviest kinetic rounds with delayed detonation charges. If their shields can't adapt fast enough, we might punch through before they realize what hit them. Dr. Rachel Stone worked frantically at the science station, analyzing communication patterns between Devourer ships. Their quantum entanglement network uses frequencies similar to what we mapped in the Galactic Rim surveys. I think our old radio communication systems might be able to create interference if we broadcast on specific wavelengths. The main screen showed 3 Devourer vessels approaching in perfect formation, while their adaptive shields shimmered with energy that had proven invulnerable to every galactic weapon. Behind them stretched a fleet of mechanical horrors that had consumed entire civilizations without showing any sign of damage or fatigue. Sarah Kim monitored communications from the fleeing Council ships where Admiral Wrathbringer was coordinating the retreat. Captain, the Admiral is requesting our position for the battle records. He assumes we'll be destroyed within minutes of first contact. Ben smiled grimly and opened a channel to the Kethmore flagship. Admiral, this is Captain Rodriguez. We're beginning our attack run now. You might want to watch how primitives handle advanced technology. The Admiral's 4-armed form appeared on screen, looking confused and concerned. Captain Rodriguez, I must protest this suicidal action. The Devourers have adapted to counter every known weapon system in the galactic arsenal. Your kinetic weapons are 3 centuries obsolete. That's exactly what we're counting on, Ben replied before closing the channel. Amy Watson rerouted power from non-essential systems to boost the railgun charging capacity beyond normal safety limits. Captain, we're pushing the weapon systems. Past red line, but they'll hold together for at least a dozen shots before the magnetic coils burn out. Tony Brooks locked onto the lead Devourer ship and prepared to fire the first kinetic salvo in galactic history. Target acquired, Captain. Firing solutions calculated for their current shield configuration. The Determination's railguns fired, simultaneously sending tungsten core projectiles racing toward the Devourer fleet at significant fractions of light speed. The alien ships continued their approach without altering course or raising additional defenses. Their adaptive shields had encountered every type of energy weapon and particle beam in galactic civilization, but never simple kinetic rounds traveling at extreme velocity. The tungsten cores struck the lead Devourer ship and punched completely through its adaptive shielding, like it wasn't there. The delayed explosive charges detonated inside the hull, causing internal damage that sent the mechanical vessel spinning out of formation. For the first time in recorded history, a Devourer ship had taken significant damage. Direct hits on target. 1. Tony reported with excitement in his voice. Their shields couldn't adapt fast enough to stop kinetic penetration. Dr. Rachel Stone activated the radio interference protocol she had developed using Earth's primitive communication technology. Broadcasting electromagnetic interference on quantum entanglement frequencies now, Captain. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The remaining Devourer ships began moving erratically as their coordination network suffered disruption from radio signals that galactic civilization had abandoned centuries ago. The mechanical vessels that had moved in perfect formation now struggled to maintain basic communication. Amy Watson watched the engineering displays as their improvised tactics produced results that violated every principle of modern galactic warfare. Captain, the interference is working. Devourer ships are having trouble coordinating their adaptive defenses when they can't communicate effectively. Ben ordered another kinetic barrage, while the enemy ships struggled with communication problems. The railguns fired again, sending depleted uranium rounds into Devourer hulls that had never been designed to handle primitive ballistic weapons. Internal explosions lit up the mechanical vessels as ancient Earth ordnance proved more effective than the most advanced energy weapons in the galaxy. Marine Sergeant Kelly Adams contacted the bridge from the shuttle bay where her team was preparing for something even more primitive than kinetic weapons. Captain, we've loaded cutting torches, chemical explosives, and basic tools onto assault shuttles. If we can get close enough, their mechanical systems might be vulnerable to good old-fashioned sabotage. The main screen showed chaos spreading through the Devourer fleet as ships collided with each other while their communication network failed under radio interference. More mechanical vessels were arriving, but they seemed confused by the electromagnetic chaos that primitive human technology was creating. Admiral Wrathbringer appeared on the communication channel looking stunned by what his sensors were showing. Captain Rodriguez, how are you achieving these results? Our weapons had no effect on Devourer defensive systems. Admiral, it turns out that sometimes the old ways work better than advanced technology, Ben replied while ordering another kinetic. Salvo. These machines adapted to handle every modern weapon, but they never encountered anything primitive enough to slip past their defenses. Dr. Rachel Stone detected incoming reinforcements on long-range sensors. Captain, I'm reading 50 more Devourer ships approaching our position. Our interference is spreading to them, but they're adapting their communication protocols to work around the radio disruption. Amy Watson ran damage reports on their overtaxed weapon systems. Railgun magnetic coils are showing stress fractures. We have maybe 6 more shots before they fail completely. Tony Brooks targeted the largest Devourer ship with their remaining kinetic ammunition. Captain, if we're going out, let's make it count. Loading our heaviest penetrators with maximum explosive charges. The Determination fired its final railgun salvo just as Devourer reinforcements reached weapons range. Tungsten core rounds tore through adaptive shielding that had never been designed to handle primitive ballistic weapons. The massive Devourer command ship suffered critical damage as ancient human ordnance proved more effective than centuries of galactic military advancement. But now the mechanical vessels were adapting to kinetic weapons, and their shielding began deflecting subsequent rounds. The brief window of opportunity was closing as Devourer technology evolved to counter even primitive Earth weaponry. Sergeant Kelly Adams launched her assault shuttles toward damaged Devourer ships carrying Marines equipped with cutting tools and chemical explosives. Captain, we're going in for close-range sabotage. If their hulls can't handle kinetic rounds, maybe they can't handle some basic demolition work either. The small human shuttles raced toward mechanical vessels, while Devourer defensive systems struggled to target such primitive craft. The assault. Teams carried weapons that predated galactic civilization by thousands of years, but might prove effective against technology that had never encountered anything so basic. Ben watched his Marines disappear into the mechanical maze of Devourer ships, while reinforcements continued arriving. The primitive tactics were working, but 50 more enemy vessels were approaching and the Determination was running out of ammunition. All stations prepare for ramming speed. Ben ordered, as he realized their primitive weapons had delayed the Devourers but not stopped them. Sergeant Kelly Adams and her Marines cut through the hull of a massive Devourer ship using simple plasma torches, while explosions echoed through the mechanical corridors around them. The alien vessel's interior was a maze of processing units and energy conduits that had never been designed to handle intruders carrying basic demolition equipment. "Bravo team, set charges on those main power couplings," Kelly ordered through her helmet radio while watching Devourer maintenance units approach their position. "Charlie team, follow me to what looks like a central processing node." The mechanical defenders moved predictably along predetermined patrol routes that made perfect sense for an automated system, but created obvious vulnerabilities for anyone thinking tactically. Kelly's Marines used chemical explosives and cutting charges to disable critical systems, while the Devourer ship's defenses struggled to adapt to such primitive threats. Meanwhile, aboard the Determination, Captain Ben Rodriguez watched as other Galactic Council ships began altering their tactics based on human success. Admiral Rathbringer's damaged flagship suddenly changed course and rammed directly into a Devourer vessel instead of maintaining safe distance for energy weapon engagement. "Captain, I'm receiving tactical updates from Council ships throughout the system," Sarah Kim reported from her communications station. "They're requesting copies of our kinetic weapon specifications and radio interference protocols." Amy Watson coordinated with alien engineering teams while running diagnostics on the Determination's overstressed systems. The Kethmore are modifying their weapons to fire physical projectiles instead of energy beams. The Vorthak are using biological acids to dissolve Devourer hull plating. Everyone's going primitive. Dr. Rachel Stone monitored the spreading electromagnetic interference as more ships began broadcasting on frequencies that galactic civilization had abandoned long ago. "Captain, the radio disruption is cascading through the entire Devourer fleet. Their quantum entanglement network is failing across multiple star systems." Ben opened a communication channel to coordinate the improvised multi-species counterattack. Young alien officers who had studied human tactical manuals during the long retreat now found themselves implementing strategies their superiors had dismissed as barbaric. Sub-Commander Zelthek of the Zeltharian fleet contacted the Determination, with excitement crackling through her crystalline voice. "Captain Rodriguez, we have modified our resonance weapons to create sonic disruption instead of energy discharge. The mechanical vessels cannot adapt to pure sound waves." The main tactical display showed chaos spreading through Devourer formations, as galactic ships abandoned centuries of military doctrine in favor of primitive human approaches. Kethmore vessels used ramming attacks, while Vorthak ships deployed chemical weapons that dissolved mechanical components faster than adaptive systems could compensate. Tony Brooks coordinated weapons targeting with alien gunners who were learning to use kinetic ammunition for the first time in their military careers. "Captain, the Nexari are converting their manufacturing systems to produce solid projectiles. They've never used ballistic weapons, but they're learning fast." Sergeant Kelly Adams reported from inside the Devourer command ship, where her Marines had discovered something unexpected. "Captain, we've found what looks like a central coordination matrix. It's processing tactical data from the entire mechanical fleet and trying to develop countermeasures for primitive weapons." Dr. Rachel Stone analyzed the data Kelly's team was transmitting and realized the significance of their discovery. "Captain, if we can disrupt that central matrix, the entire Devourer fleet might lose coordination permanently. But it's heavily shielded, and our remaining explosives won't penetrate the protective barriers." Ben studied the tactical situation as Devourer reinforcements continued arriving while the improvised alliance held their position using primitive weapons and tactics. The mechanical vessels were beginning to adapt to kinetic weapons and radio interference, but the process was slower than their usual defensive evolution. Amy Watson detected massive energy buildup in the approaching Devourer reinforcements. "Captain, the new arrivals are charging weapon systems unlike anything we've seen before. They're preparing some kind of massive bombardment that will destroy everything in the system, including civilian evacuation ships." Admiral Wrathbringer appeared on the communication screen with battle damage visible across his armor and obvious exhaustion in his four-armed posture. Captain Rodriguez, the Devourer reinforcements are preparing to sterilize the entire Altarian system. Our combined primitive tactics have delayed them, but not stopped their ultimate objective. Ben realized that despite their unexpected success, the human tactics had only bought time for the civilian evacuation. The Devourers were adapting to every primitive weapon while preparing a final assault that would destroy 8 billion Altarian lives along with any galactic ships remaining in the system. Sarah Kim received priority transmissions from the evacuation fleet, struggling to reach minimum safe distance. Captain, the Altarian civilian ships are still 4 hours from escape velocity. The Devourer bombardment will begin in 90 minutes according to their energy buildup patterns. Kelly Adams contacted the bridge from deep inside the enemy command ship where her Marines had planted every available explosive charge around the central coordination matrix. Captain, we can't break through the matrix shielding with our equipment, but we've identified the main power feed. If something big enough hit this ship hard enough, it might disrupt the entire network. Amy Watson ran calculations on the Determination's remaining capabilities while monitoring the approaching Devourer superweapons. Captain, our ship's reactor could be overloaded to create an explosion large enough to destroy that command vessel. But we'd have to ram them directly and someone would need to stay behind to manually trigger the detonation. Ben looked around. The bridge had his crew of 200 humans who had volunteered for exploration missions and found themselves in the middle of a galactic war. These people had families back on Earth and futures they would never see if they followed through with the only plan that might save the Altarian civilians. Dr. Rachel Stone confirmed the tactical analysis with growing urgency in her voice. Captain, ramming the command ship would disrupt the coordination network and prevent the systematic bombardment. The remaining Devourer vessels would revert to individual hunting behavior instead of coordinated fleet actions. Tony Brooks checked the status of their weapon systems and nodded grimly. Captain, our railguns are completely burned out and we're down to emergency chemical rockets. Ramming is about the only offensive capability we have left. Ben activated ship-wide communications to address the entire crew, while Devourer superweapons continued charging for their final assault. Around the system, galactic ships using primitive human tactics fought desperately to protect civilian evacuation vessels from mechanical horrors that had consumed entire civilizations. People we have. One chance to save 8 billion innocent lives, Ben announced to his crew. I won't order anyone to stay behind for this mission. We'll evacuate everyone we can, but I need volunteers to help guide the ship into the final ramming attack. Amy Watson stepped forward, immediately followed by Tony Brooks and Chris Parker. Captain, someone needs to manually overload the reactor and calculate the impact vector. We volunteer to stay behind and finish this. Dr. Rachel Stone joined the volunteer group, while Sarah Kim began coordinating with the evacuation shuttles. Captain, we'll make sure the Determination hits that command ship hard enough to end this war. Ben felt pride mixed with sadness as he realized his crew was willing to sacrifice everything to save people they had never met. The Galactic Council had dismissed humanity as primitive and barbaric, but these humans were about to prove that sometimes primitive courage was worth more than advanced technology. The evacuation shuttles launched from the Determination, carrying most of the crew toward the safety of Admiral Wrathbringer's flagship, while Captain Ben Rodriguez remained on the bridge with his volunteers. Amy Watson worked frantically in engineering to prepare the reactor overload sequence, while Tony Brooks and Chris Parker calculated the precise impact vector needed to destroy the Devourer command ship. Dr. Rachel Stone monitored the massive energy buildup in the approaching Devourer super weapons, while coordinating with Sergeant Kelly Adams, who was still trapped inside the enemy command vessel. Kelly, you need to get your Marines out of there now. We're beginning our ramming run in 10 minutes. Kelly's voice crackled through the communication system from deep within the mechanical ship where her team had been fighting running battles with automated defense systems. Doctor, we can't reach the extraction point. Devourer security units have sealed off our escape route and we're pinned down in the central coordination chamber. Ben felt the weight of command as he realized some of his people would not escape before the final collision. The tactical display showed Devourer superweapons reaching critical charge levels, while Altarian civilian ships struggled desperately to reach minimum safe distance from the coming bombardment. Amy Watson's voice echoed through the ship from the engineering deck where she was manually reconfiguring reactor safety systems. Captain, reactor overload sequence is ready. When we impact the command ship, I'll trigger a controlled fusion explosion that should take out their entire coordination network. Sarah Kim received final status reports from the evacuation fleet while monitoring communications between galactic ships that were using human tactics to hold off the mechanical invaders. Captain, the last civilian transports will clear the danger zone in 37 minutes. The Devourer bombardment begins in 45 minutes. Ben opened a communication channel to the Galactic Fleet commanders who were watching the human sacrifice with growing respect and amazement. Admiral Wrathbringer, this is Captain Rodriguez beginning final approach on the Devourer command vessel. Make sure our people get home safely. The four-armed Kethmore Admiral appeared on screen with obvious emotion in his alien features. Captain, Rodriguez, your sacrifice will be remembered by every species in the galaxy. The Kethmore consider you and your crew to be warriors of the highest honor. Sub-Commander Zelthek of the Zeltharian Fleet added her crystalline voice to the communication channel. Captain, the courage you have shown today has changed how our people view humanity forever. We were wrong to dismiss your species as primitive. Chris Parker adjusted the navigation controls to aim the determination directly at the massive Devourer command ship, while its defensive systems finally began recognizing the threat of a ramming attack. Captain, their shields are adapting to stop kinetic impacts, but our velocity and mass should overcome their defenses. Dr. Rachel Stone detected critical changes in the Devourer fleet coordination as the command ship prepared for impact. Captain, disrupting their central matrix will revert all mechanical vessels to individual hunting behavior. They'll be dangerous but not organized enough for systematic planetary bombardment. Tony Brooks armed the last of their chemical explosives to detonate on impact while monitoring the approach to the enemy vessel. Captain, will hit their command ship in 90 seconds. Amy should trigger the reactor overload 30 seconds after impact to ensure maximum damage to their coordination network. Sergeant Kelly Adams contacted the bridge one final time from inside the Devourer command ship where her Marines had fought, their way to the central coordination chamber. Captain, we can see the matrix core from our position. When you hit this ship, we'll detonate every explosive we have left to make sure their network goes down permanently. Ben felt overwhelming pride in his crew as they approached certain death to save billions of lives they would never meet. The Galactic Council had laughed at human primitiveness, but these people were proving that sometimes courage and sacrifice were more advanced than any technology. Amy Watson reported from engineering where she was preparing to manually trigger the reactor overload that would destroy both ships. Captain, the fusion explosion will be visible from 3 star systems away. Every species in the galaxy will know that humans kept their word about protecting innocent life. The determination accelerated toward the Devourer command ship, while defensive systems tried desperately to stop the ramming attack. Mechanical weapons that had destroyed 47 galactic warships fired uselessly at a primitive human vessel whose crew had already accepted their fate. Sarah Kim transmitted final messages to Earth Command while the ship approached impact. Velocity. Captain, our mission reports have been forwarded to Admiral Hayes along with tactical data about primitive weapons effectiveness against adaptive technology. Earth will know what we accomplished here. Ben addressed his volunteers one last time as the Devourer command ship filled their forward view screen. People, it has been an honor serving with you. We're about to prove that sometimes the most primitive thing in the galaxy is also the most powerful. The determination struck the massive mechanical vessel with enough force to crack both ships in half, while Amy Watson triggered the reactor overload sequence. The resulting fusion explosion lit up the Altarian system like a second sun as 2 100 years of human engineering and determination combined to destroy technology that had conquered entire civilizations. Sergeant Kelly Adams and her Marines detonated every explosive charge they had planted throughout the Devourer command ship while the fusion blast consumed both vessels. The central coordination matrix that had controlled thousands of mechanical killers across multiple star systems went dark permanently. Admiral Wrathbringer watched from his flagship as the explosion faded, leaving only debris where the human ship had sacrificed itself to save 8 billion Altarian lives. All ships observe 1 minute of silence for the crew of the UES Determination, who have shown us the true meaning of courage. Throughout the system, Devourer vessels began operating independently without central coordination, while galactic ships using primitive human tactics continued their attacks. The mechanical threat remained dangerous but was no longer capable of the systematic destruction that had consumed entire species. Elder Morteth of the Vorthak delegation pulsed solemn blue lights as he transmitted to the fleet. The humans have given us victory through their sacrifice. Let no species ever again question the honor and courage of those we once called primitive. Dr. Rachel Stone's final scientific readings showed the Devourer coordination network failing across multiple star systems as the fusion explosion disrupted their quantum entanglement communications. The mechanical invasion that had threatened galactic civilization was finally breaking apart. The debris of the Determination drifted through space, carrying the bodies of humans who had proven that sometimes the most advanced technology in the galaxy was an ancient concept that machines could never understand. They had shown the universe that courage and sacrifice were more powerful than adaptive shielding or quantum coordination networks. Sub-Commander Zelthek transmitted the battle records to Nexus Prime, where the Galactic Council would learn how primitive humans had saved their civilization through tactics that violated every principle of modern warfare. The species they had dismissed as barbaric had just won an impossible victory through weapons and strategies that predated galactic technology by thousands of years. The Grand Chamber of Nexus Prime looked completely different when Admiral Karen Hayes and Ambassador Pete Coleman walked through the entrance 6 months after the Battle of Altair 7. The empty observer seats where Jake Sullivan and Lisa Martinez had once sat in humiliation were gone. In their place stood a full diplomatic table with the blue and white flag of Earth displayed prominently among the other galactic powers. Council. Prime Zelthara rose from her crystalline throne with an expression that would have been impossible to imagine during the previous session. The same alien leader who had dismissed humanity as primitive barbarians now showed obvious respect as she addressed the assembled delegates. The Galactic Council convenes today to formally recognize the extraordinary courage and tactical innovation demonstrated by the human species during the Devourer crisis, Zelthara announced, while her voice carried none of its previous condescension. The sacrifice of Captain Ben Rodriguez and the crew of the UES Determination saved 8 billion Altarian lives and prevented the systematic destruction of our civilization. Admiral Hayes stood at the human diplomatic table wearing the dress uniform of Earth's expanded stellar navy. The woman who had been promoted to lead humanity's galactic relations carried herself with quiet confidence, while alien delegates who had once laughed at human applications now listened respectfully to every word she spoke. Elder Morteth of the Vorthak delegation pulsed bright gold patterns across his bioluminescent body while floating in his communication tank. The Vorthak Collective formally apologizes to the human species for our previous assessment of your technological and cultural development. We failed to recognize that innovation and courage are more advanced than any weapons system. Ambassador T. Coleman reviewed the diplomatic documents that would change humanity's status within galactic civilization. Elder Morteth, we appreciate the apology, but our focus remains on preventing future conflicts through improved cooperation between all species. The holographic displays now showed images of human tactical instructors working with alien military academies to develop new approaches to asymmetric warfare. Young officers from dozens of species studied primitive weapons and unconventional strategies at Earth's recently established Galactic Defense Innovation Center. Speaker Talaith of the Altarian colonies appeared via quantum communication link from the rebuilt settlements that existed because 200 humans had been willing to sacrifice everything. The Altarian people request formal alliance status with Earth and wish to establish permanent cultural exchange programs to honor those who saved our civilization. Council Prime Zelthara activated the formal recognition protocols while the chamber fell silent. Based on their demonstrated tactical capabilities, technological innovation, and unmatched courage in defense of innocent life, the Galactic Council grants humanity immediate Level 7 advanced civilization status with full voting privileges and technology sharing access. The announcement represented the largest single advancement in galactic classification history. Humanity had jumped from Level 2 pre-industrial to Level 7 advanced, while skipping 5 intermediate categories that typically required centuries of technological development. Admiral Hayes accepted the recognition with dignity befitting the species that had saved galactic civilization. Earth is honored to join the Galactic Council as equals and looks forward to contributing our perspectives to future challenges. Young Kethmore Commander Rathtel approached the human table after the formal session ended while carrying application documents for Earth's Tactical Academy. Admiral Hayes, my people request permission to send officer candidates to study human military innovation. We have much to learn from your unconventional approaches. Ambassador Coleman smiled while reviewing the requests from 17 different species seeking military exchange programs with Earth. Commander, we welcome students from all species interested in learning adaptive tactics and creative problem-solving. The Nexari delegation presented technical specifications for joint manufacturing projects that would combine galactic energy weapons with human kinetic systems. Ambassador Coleman, our analysis suggests that hybrid weapon platforms incorporating both advanced and primitive technologies would be more effective than either approach alone. Dr. Patricia Wong from Earth's Science Division reviewed the technology sharing proposals while consulting with alien researchers who wanted to study human innovation methods. The key to our success was thinking outside established parameters and being willing to try approaches that seemed impossible. Sub-Commander Zelthek of the Zeltharian fleet shared tactical reports showing how primitive human strategies had been successfully integrated into galactic military doctrine. Admiral Hayes, the determination doctrine is now taught at every military academy in Council space. Captain Rodriguez and his crew are considered heroes by warriors throughout the galaxy. The session continued for hours as various species presented proposals for cooperation and cultural exchange with humanity. The aliens who had once dismissed Earth as irrelevant now competed for access to human tactical expertise and innovative thinking. Speaker Talaith transmitted detailed plans for the memorial being constructed at Altair 7, where the debris of the UES determination had been preserved as a monument to human sacrifice. Admiral Hayes, the memorial will serve as a pilgrimage site for young people from all species who wish to understand the meaning of courage. Admiral Hayes reviewed reports from Earth showing massive expansion of the stellar navy and space infrastructure as humanity prepared to take its place among galactic powers. Speaker Talaith Captain Rodriguez and his crew would be honored to know their sacrifice inspired such hope for the future. The formal session concluded with unanimous approval of Earth's proposals for improved galactic defense coordination and establishment of joint tactical training facilities. Council Prime Zelthara personally apologized to Admiral Hayes for the Council's previous treatment of human representatives. Admiral, we now understand that our definition of advanced civilization was incomplete, Zelthara admitted, while her crystalline features showed obvious remorse. We measured technological sophistication, but failed to recognize that wisdom, courage, and innovation are the true marks of an advanced species. Ambassador Coleman accepted the apology gracefully while maintaining focus on future cooperation rather than past mistakes. Council Prime, we believe every species has unique contributions to make and look forward to learning from our new allies. 3 months later, the UES Determination 2 launched from Earth's orbital shipyards under the command of Captain Kelly Adams, who had survived the battle inside the Devourer command ship. The new vessel incorporated both advanced galactic technology and primitive human innovations, while carrying a multi-species crew eager to explore unknown regions. Elder Mortith observed the launch ceremony from his tank aboard the joint expedition vessel while reflecting on how completely their understanding of primitiveness had changed. Perhaps we should have asked what humans were capable of instead of assuming we knew their limitations. Young alien cadets throughout the galaxy studied the Battle of Altair 7 while learning that sometimes the most advanced solution to any problem was the willingness to sacrifice for others. The species they had once considered barbaric had taught them that courage was the most sophisticated technology in the universe. The memorial at Altair 7 received its first group of young pilgrims who came to understand how 200 humans had proven that innovation and sacrifice could overcome any technological advantage. Their primitive weapons and ancient courage had saved galactic civilization and earned humanity respect that would last for millennia. Captain Kelly Adams stood on the bridge of the Determination 2 as it began humanity's first joint deep space exploration mission while carrying the memory of Captain Rodriguez and his crew into the unknown regions beyond galactic borders. The laughter that had once echoed through council chambers had been replaced by respect for the species that proved primitiveness was just another word for unlimited potential.